Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Doom Productions podcast, a podcast hosted by Doom Productions. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Ethan.
And every week we meet on Monday.
Yep.
That's the day when we meet. It's when we get together. We talk about our film projects. We talk about our YouTube channel. We keep track of what we need to get done that week, that day, that month. It's our organizing day. Is that about accurate of what Mondays are supposed to be?
It's work day.
It's work day. And sometimes the meetings can go very long. Sometimes they're pretty brief. It kind of just depends on our workload and what projects we're working on. Mm-hmm. This week felt pretty light, actually.
It was pretty good. We're just kind of heads down.
Yeah.
We know what we need to do.
But inevitably, no matter how much work we have, we always get sidetracked. And we'll talk about movies because, we don't see each other every day. So if movie news comes up, we'll talk about it, or there's a movie we just saw, we'll talk about that, or life stuff or whatever. We'll get sidetracked with lots of things, and we try to keep it on track mostly. We'll try to get that stuff out of the way before the meeting or after the meeting, but it always slips through during the meeting.
Yeah.
And we try to keep it to a minimum during the meeting, so we're actually productive, because we could just go on and on all day. However, there are we have two exceptions to this rule.
These were set as foundations for Doom Productions very early on when we started meeting, back in 2020. These were established rules.
It was, we're going to keep it on track unless it has to do with Zack Snyder or
Star Wars.
And this week was May 4th.
Yeah.
It was on a Wednesday. Yesterday was May 5th, Revenge of the 5th. Mm-hmm. There's no thing for the 6th.
It's my birthday.
Oh, yeah, it's your birthday. That's right.
I turned 26.
So a die-hard Star Wars fan was born on this day. So it's a special day. It's a special week for Star Wars. And we didn't really do a Star Wars thing last year, I don't think. We didn't do a May 4th celebration. But it's something that means a lot to us, the Star Wars films and that franchise and all that. And
just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. And because we love it so much, and it has to do with film, and it's one of our rules built into the 10 Commandments of Doom Productions, thou shalt talk about Zack Snyder and Star Wars as much as ye want. We figured, hey, instead of procrastinating about Star Wars, or procrastinating our work and talking about Star Wars, let's just record us talking about Star Wars. All things Star Wars.
So this is what any given Monday sounds like if you were to pop in on a Doom Productions meeting.
Really?
And be right there as the rabbit trail unfolds.
Yes.
That's this podcast.
That's what we're going to do. We could go into some wild territory here.
We haven't pre-planned this one too much.
No, we're our channel and our Doom Productions, we're mostly about filmmaking and
feature films that we make.
And advice. And we do talk about films from time to time. But I feel like when it comes to Star Wars, it does dip that toe into the kind of fandom aspect of it.
100%.
Which we haven't really, a little bit. Obviously people know we like Snyder, DC, we like superheroes.
Just superheroes, pop culture stuff is really interesting to us.
We do enjoy that and all the genres and whatnot, but we haven't done a full-blown discussion yet, I think, on any one thing. So this is us, I guess, not coming out as as Star Wars nerds, but if you want to know what we're really like, I guess, listen to this.
The unfiltered Doom Productions experience.
Really. And so our guiding question for today is, what makes Star Wars Star Wars? Mm-hmm. So if you're a Star Wars fan and you just jumped onto this, that's what we're going to be discussing.
Yeah.
If you're just a film person, you don't care about Star Wars, maybe this isn't the episode for you. Maybe skip around.
Maybe we'll convince you to become a Star Wars person.
Or feel free to listen. And if you're just here for us and you want to hear us talk, well, you're in the right place.
We're going to talk a lot in this one.
Oh, yeah. This could be our longest one yet.
It could very well be. I just had to text my girlfriend right before. I was like, hey, I know I said to pick you up closer to 6, but we're going to record a Star Wars podcast I forgot about, so expect me closer to 7.
That's great. So anyways, Ethan, I think I have tiny little notes.
Yeah.
Not huge, extensive notes.
You got more notes than me.
My notes for this, in terms of this discussion, is two halves. What makes Star Wars Star Wars?
Cool.
Technically, film-wise, what makes Star Wars Star Wars? And I guess story-wise or thematically, what makes Star Wars Star Wars? I guess it's probably more straightforward to start with the technically, but technically, technology-wise, film formal techniques-wise, what makes Star Wars to you?
Well, Star Wars was born out of George Lucas, who comes from this era of Hollywood where these young up-and-coming filmmakers coming out of like film schools in LA, all kind of buddies, like it's this new next wave like of filmmakers, and they were all kind of trying out different things of what was possible. And in that group was George Lucas, who is very well known for being someone who is pushing technology forward in filmmaking. So he's someone who, I mean, he founded ILM and other filmmaking companies as well. But all this to say, he's someone who's he's groundbreaking in filmmaking. So he's constantly trying out new technologies, innovating on things that are either pre-existing or completely from the ground up making new technologies so that he can continue to make Star Wars. So when I think of Star Wars, I think in a filmmaking sense, you're getting stuff that's new to the table in terms of filmmaking tools.
He created non-linear editing. He created that. I don't know if many people know that, but George Lucas invented non-linear editing. He created that technology.
Editing as we know today.
So if you are editing on Adobe, Avid, Final Cut, whatever, DaVinci, whatever you use, trace that lineage back to George Lucas, essentially. And of course, he didn't invent editing, of course.
No, but editing as we know today. You're not splicing film. You're not doing... The digital process, as we know it today, stems from what he was doing, which is crazy. But then, I mean, again, you're getting use of green screen, digital sets. Nowadays, we're looking at the volume. We were literally just talking about this ahead of time.
I know.
The volume that they use in The Mandalorian, and is probably going to become just commonplace in filmmaking.
It was used in The Batman, and oh gosh, there was another movie that just used the volume, and I can't remember what it was.
I don't know.
But yes, the volume has been...
But the volume, that's something that George Lucas talked about years ago, like prequel era Star Wars. George Lucas was talking about this idea of what he didn't call it the volume. I don't know what he referred to it as, but like a lot of the things that we're seeing come out now were things that felt like that George was talking about or imagining what it could be like 15 years ago.
When it came to the prequels and how those movies were made, a lot of people bashed the extensive use of green screen back then. But flash forward to today, now maybe things are kind of shifting away from that because of the volume. But you look at the mid 2000s or 2000s to the 2010s, that era. Every blockbuster used that amount of green screen. Like the Avengers movies were all like those actors just. Maybe the floor was real, but everything else was entirely green screen, and that just became the standard for Hollywood.
Well, again, and people might criticize. Well, people did criticize the George Lucas's movies didn't look as realistic or like photoreal as they could have. But I think that's the risk that he was willing to take to push the technology forward.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you can't take leaps and bounds if you're not actively trying every new thing that's out there.
Yeah.
Like. Would green screen get really good still if he had only used a couple of shots in the movies or kept it to a minimum? Sure, we would have gotten there, but I don't think we would be where we're at today without him and other filmmakers like him, like Peter Jackson, like those kind of...
James Cameron,
those directors pushing forward and letting their movies maybe suffer a little bit in some aspects, but as a whole, like letting an industry leap forward.
Yeah. I think I was rewatching the behind the scenes on The Phantom Menace, and I think he said something along the lines, because they're planning out the Naboo battle, where it's the kind of those rolling green fields and the Gungan army, and John Knoll sitting there. And if you don't know who John Knoll is, he was a huge like visual effects person at Lucasfilm for a long time, in ILM, and I think he invented Adobe Photoshop. Wait, okay, I'm gonna fact check this because I saw this on. Hold on.
He's got some big Yeah, he's done some big things.
John.
I don't remember that specifically though.
Let's see. I saw. Yeah, he was one of the original creators of Adobe Photoshop, along with his brother Thomas Knoll.
Crazy.
Anyways, so he's sitting there with John Knoll, George Lucas, and he's saying we're changing the way that movies are going to be made, and like he's very conscious of like we don't know how we're going to do this, but we're going to figure out a way because we need to tell the story, and also we need to do 2 more of these movies, so we're going to try to make it easier for ourselves for the next, episode 2 and episode 3. But I mean, we could. Just on the technology George Lucas helped innovate, that's a whole day's worth of conversation right there. But
let's keep going.
When we think of Star Wars, I think we definitely agree. And some of these we might disagree, but this one we definitely agree that when it comes to Star Wars, it has to push the technology forward in some way.
Well, it just inherently does because of the scope.
Yeah.
These movies are huge.
And that's something where... if you look at all the Star Wars movies, and I guess where we're coming from with what makes Star Wars, that question, we're kind of basing this off of not what we think, what we want, kind of what the fans think. We're basing this like what was George Lucas's intentions?
Yeah.
And basing it off of that. Because I think we're both subscribers to the kind of auteur theory idea where the author's intent is very important, especially when it comes to a big franchise like Star Wars, where the more stuff is made, it could be difficult to maintain that spirit of the original. So always going back to George Lucas in our minds is what makes Star Wars in some way. So in one way, that's new technology.
Yeah.
Some easier ones that are kind of, I guess, a little, easy is aspect ratio, right?
Yes.
I think the movies are all 2:3:9. Now there have been 2 exceptions to this, which have been really cool, and they've honestly been very crazy and innovative when they did change the 2:3:9 aspect ratio. Now what that means, if you didn't know, is a widescreen essentially.
Yeah.
Black bar's top and the bottom of the screen. One instance when they changed this.
Is it Rogue One?
Well, Star Wars Rebels.
Oh, Rebels.
The TV show is presented in 16:9.
Got
Clone Wars is 2:3:9 but Rebels is the full frame, fills up your whole TV, and that has an interesting aspect when you change that aspect ratio because, visually, it doesn't necessarily look like Star Wars, like cinematically, but it definitely like everything else does feel like Star Wars.
Yeah.
But what it does is it makes you kind of more absorbed in the world, and the world feels a little more a bit expansive and immersive in a way where the image is literally bigger than any other Star Wars image out there.
Yeah.
So that is kind of interesting way to perceive Star Wars content. The other instance when they changed aspect ratio, we were together.
Yeah, it was The Mandalorian.
While everyone was screaming for Boba Fett, Ethan and I...
We were screaming for the aspect ratio.
We were cheering because they changed the aspect ratio.
I remember us rewinding in season 2, episode 1. We're rewinding after the episode finishes. We're like, wait, we need to catch that again. We need the action repeat or whatever they call it in sports.
Yeah, instant replay. Yeah.
Of when the aspect ratio shifts, when the crate dragon bursts out of the ground and it, full screens. Incredible.
Because we didn't catch it when it went up.
It's such a natural aspect ratio change. You almost miss it. It's incredible.
And again, it made the movie or the show. It made the moment feel big. It made it feel important. It drew you into that experience a little bit more. I mean, it's presented on television, and that's something that the more cinematic you can make it, the better it can be. Or make it feel like a movie as much as you can, especially with the Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
And so that moment was so big we didn't recognize it when it happened at first.
Because it's so clean. It's so perfectly done.
Yes. But when it started shrinking on that panning shot of Mando riding away,
and Boba
we
Fett's,
noticed that.
Yeah,
and
that
we
was
were cheering. Just to know what kind of weirdos we are.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to aspect ratio, what makes Star Wars stars, in my head, is that 2:3:9
It's
to
consistent,
1
yeah.
aspect ratio for the most part.
Yeah. But we're always open to change.
Yeah, it would be kind of weird to see 185 or like 4:3. That would be
4:3
kind of
would be-
strange
I agree.
Star Wars thing, but
I could see things like Star Wars Visions getting away with it.
I think there's that's not to say Star Wars should never do any of this stuff, but I think
As it stands now.
as it stands now, Star Wars to us is 2:3:9 to 1, but rules are meant to be broken.
Yeah.
So like if you're making Star Wars and you change it up, put some good thought and intention behind it, I think. Which I think Rebels and Mando,
Yeah.
they absolutely did.
Yeah.
In terms of changing aspect ratio up. What else do you think about when you think about the technical side of Star Wars, whether it be cinematography or editing or
Yeah.
or
A big one that sticks out to me that I think is a little underrated is transitions.
oh yeah,
Wipes.
talk about that. Yeah,
Well, I mean, it's just the fact that George Lucas, he uses wipes, like iris wipes, and I don't know. I'm losing the terminology here, so forgive me if I say something dumb. But where like it's a circle and it closes in or opens up wide. Again, like linear wipes, all of it. He uses
Diagonal.
stuff that like he used all of them, like
Yeah.
all of the shapes he uses at some point, except for like a star shape. That's probably the only one he doesn't use. But it's all over the place, and it's to the point where it's so iconically Star Wars that if anyone else did it, it would be, oh, you're ripping off Star Wars, or that's campy, or that's cheesy.
Yeah.
But Star Wars does it unapologetically, and no one even bats an eye.
It is one of those things where it's so fun to see the influence that Luke. I mean, you can see his influences from Akira Kurosawa because
Yeah.
Kurosawa. I can't. When you start saying a name and
Yeah,
a bunch.
yeah.
Anyways, that director,
Akira Kurosawa, yep.
he was known for those wipes, and Lucas used those because he loved Kurosawa. But when I think of wipes, I don't think of Akira. I think of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Even though George Lucas didn't invent that. That was something he took
He
inspiration
closed the
from.
book on it.
Yeah. He took inspiration from that, and it's like, oh my gosh, now whenever I see those wipes, I can't help but think Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like whenever I'm watching an Akira Kurosawa movie, I'm like, hey, Star Wars.
Yeah, for real. And if I watch any other media that tries to use it, usually you're going to see that in a context where they're parodying Star Wars in some way. It's just, again, it's synonymous.
Yeah.
It feels like at this point. Like I think about sometimes, like, since we're big on trying different things in filmmaking, again, our aspect ratio is a big thing we play with. I've thought a couple times, like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if we used different transitions? Like, no, people would think we're being too much like Star Wars if we did that. Oh, we won't do that. We won't touch it.
That could be interesting. Yeah.
But it would be interesting to find the ways that make it work. I think that's what interests me.
And I think now I'm just going off of my memory and impression, so this might not be entirely accurate, but I remember episode 7 of Star Wars and like the sequel trilogy in general. I don't think they used as many wipes as they did in the original, as like the George Lucas
Probably don't
films.
use as many. I'd love to see someone. I'm sure someone's counted it up, all of them, and
But I'm pretty sure that in all of the original 6 Star Wars movies, there is a wipes between each scene.
yeah, if not most, yeah.
And I think that's something that I would imagine it's a struggle. It seems like something that feels a little outdated to some folks. Like we don't have transitions like that in big blockbusters today. And so I think there's like a fake wipe in episode 7 where Rey opens, it's in the inside of like a spaceship that's like dark, and Rey opens the door and it acted as if it was a slide transition.
Oh, that's clever though.
Which is kind of a cool way to kind of do a contemporary, I guess, modern kind of version of a slide or a wipe.
Like I picture. I know what scene you're talking about. That's cool.
But I think I can imagine if I was one of those filmmakers doing the sequel trilogy, that because it's seemingly outdated technique, I could see them struggle of like, how does that make sense using a wipe here? Because I think when we edit these days, we're so used to from shot to shot, just cut, like a hard cut, or a fade, or a dissolve, or whatever. Those wipes are inherently kind of Star Wars in a way. And it's interesting to see how Lucas used them versus how the filmmakers who took over Star Wars afterwards did them. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Clone Wars uses
Yeah, Clone Wars does.
they use those wipes all the time, and that makes it feel like Star Wars. But yeah, those transitions are a huge part of Star Wars. I think.
Yeah.
What makes it Star Wars? Star Wars.
It's part of the aesthetic.
Yeah. On the editing side of things, I think another thing that makes Star Wars is, I guess. Now, this isn't always the case, but I guess a through line that I recognize between Phantom Menace and A New Hope was at the time when those were made, those movies really jerked you around in terms of pacing.
Yeah.
Like Star Wars back then, from all accounts of people who saw it and reception of people back then, that was a really fast movie. It threw you into the middle of the action. You had no idea what was going on, and you're just like in on the ride.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the part of, the experience of Star Wars. And I think, if you look back at Episode 4, it's really not. I mean, compared to movies today, it's
slow.
It's slow if anything, which is really funny. And again, with Phantom Menace, there was a similar thing. I mean, there's footage of George after the screening of the rough cut of Phantom Menace, where he's saying it's jerking people around. He uses that term, it's jerking people around, and it was kind of meant to do that. It was supposed to be kind of very quick and bold with the editing.
Yeah.
And he wanted to pull back on that effect. And I think the sequence he's talking about is the end of the movie, because if you look at the climaxes to all the movies, Episode 4 was the battle on the ships and everything. That's pretty big and wild.
Yeah.
Episode 6 is Endor, the space battle,
And the Death Star,
and
inside.
Yeah. Yes, the lightsaber fight. Episode 1 is, it's the Naboo and the planes, Naboo and the palace, space, and the lightsaber duel. Like 4 different things cutting together. Now that's not necessary. I don't necessarily associate that wild cross-cutting climax thing with Star Wars necessarily, but I think bold choices in editing, like that's got to be somewhere in what makes Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Or am I alone in that?
No, I totally buy it. Yeah. I'll agree.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any much further words on that, but I mean, because again, if you look at
George Lucas's history again, his background as a film student, I'm blanking on the title of his short film, but there's a really famous short film he put together in film school.
Photographs.
Of just photographs.
Yeah.
But the way they're cut together to the score, I feel like that, in some abstract way, ties a strand between that and his climax editing for Star Wars, where it's a lot of stuff happening at once. And I think he's a very talented editor. And I think there's a lot to that statement, because I know that like the early edits of Episode 4 were not good until his then wife Marcia Lucas came on to help edit, and that smoothed a lot of things out. But I think and this is me maybe speculating more than knowing, but as a filmmaker, thinking about all the ways that I've failed as an editor over time have built me up into a better editor, and I'm sure it's the same thing for him, where those mistakes that he made in Episode 4 didn't happen afterwards because he knew what worked and what would make it better.
Yeah. That's a good point.
But again, a lot of speculation in that statement. So George Lucas, feel free to comment and clarify.
Yeah.
We'll be waiting anxiously for your response.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how I would describe the cinematography of Star Wars, but you're the cinematographer. I mean, cinematography-wise, what makes Star Wars Star Wars?
Throw me under the bus here.
Because I genuinely don't know. Like, I tried to think about this the other day, and I was like, cinematography,
okay,
what makes
I'll
Star
think
Wars
about
Star Wars?
what contrasts the cinematography of Star Wars. And because my big example of something that heavily contrasts, Star Wars cinematography is very controlled, calculated, locked down. And what counteracts that is Rogue One.
Well, even with I know where you're going. Even within George's original 6 movies, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith introduced handheld camera movements.
Yeah.
And snap zooms.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think, because I was thinking in my head, well, it's controlled, it's on a tripod or a dolly, but Lucas used handheld.
Yeah, and he innovated on his own technique.
Yeah.
So I don't think Star Wars
can't
is
say
locked into one thing.
Exactly.
I think Star Wars, again, when it comes to cinematography, it's evolving and it's finding new ways to share the story. But what it is a lot of the stuff is very tied into the story's emotion. The cinematography is tied very closely to the emotions of the scene, which is a very broad statement. I mean, anything is. So I think George is just very clued in and knows exactly what he's trying to do and moves accordingly. Slow scenes are a bit more like locked in and don't move as much. Emotional scenes have a lot more movement to them, whether that is handheld or not.
Yeah.
But also, I think what I appreciate about George Lucas's cinematography is he sticks fairly wide.
Yeah.
Like you get to see the whole scene. If you're a film student, I feel like there's a temptation to be really close. Or if you're a newer filmmaker, I think there's a temptation to be really close to your subject. And I think George is very good about letting us full scene breathe or giving a lot of depth. Like you get to take in the environment really well. I think he's big on the world.
He's in terms of cinematography, I almost don't think about the I guess the camera stuff so much as like the mise en scène.
Yeah.
Like what's happening within the frame.
Yeah.
And how he packs that full of visuals and meaning and symbolism to inform the story.
Yes.
I mean, easy example, the Mustafar battle. I mean, they're in hell.
Yeah.
They're in hell. Anakin sold his soul to the devil, and now he's in hell, pretty much battling, duking it out, fighting, and that the kind of volcano is enhancing that meaning behind the relationship, and that duel, and at the same time cutting between Yoda and Palpatine fighting in the
You're
Senate.
literally watching a battle of the politics of the world.
It's there
and ultimate good and evil in this. Yeah.
Palpatine throwing the seats of the Senate at Yoda. I mean, that's representing democracy is over.
Dismantling.
Dismantling democracy.
Yeah.
So when I think of cinematography, I think of more symbolism rather than what's it called? I guess the camera stuff. Because again, the camera stuff, as you said, it's changing.
It's changing, and it's not tied down. If anyone else was doing it, I'd almost say it's pretty vanilla.
Yeah.
But with vanilla, you can add fudge and caramel and all. I'll let the analogies sit there.
And also, another thing too is each Star Wars film always has a very strong closing shot.
Oh yeah.
Like every single episode of Clone Wars, which George was pretty involved in, those always had strong closing images. So I think like that moment when it like iris outs and then it says directed by whoever, George Lucas, Dave Filoni, or whoever, having a strong closing image like that always feels inherently Star Wars. Like, I mean, if you think about all the films, they're all like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's very balanced. The frame, there's a proper depth to it all. It's something interesting. It's something meaningful. Like A New Hope, it's the throne room. You have Luke in the middle and all the friends kind of in a line together. What was episode 5? That was Luke and Leia on the barge.
Yeah, it's on the balcony. It pans out. You see the galaxy as Lando's leaving to go find Han.
Episode 6 is the friends all together. One
is in Naboo, the celebration after Naboo is liberated.
2 is the
wedding.
The wedding. And then 3
is New Hope. It ties in. It's the binary sunset.
Now, I say this without condoning or condemning, but if you compare that to the closing shot of episode 7, which is that revolving helicopter shot of Rey handing the saber off to Luke, that to me is something that seems not Star Wars. In terms of a strong closing image.
It's a strong emotional moment, but it's not as strong visually.
Yes, because most of these moments, I mean, there are some moving moments and closing shots in the Clone Wars, but when you look at the 6 films, usually the camera's locked down, unmoving, just letting us linger and think about this lasting image, which the blocking is there in episode 7, but camera-wise, the camera's moving, and it's from a distance, and it's very zoomed in, and
it's almost messy. A little muddier in some shots. It's not clear.
And again, without condoning or condemning, that to me, it's interesting to see, like, that's the closing image of that movie. But then if you look at episode 8, it's the kid with the broom. If you look at episode 9, is it Rey, right? Walking and looking
it's
at
Rey.
the sunset.
It's the Rey Skywalker thing, and it's the sunset.
It's kind of funny because episode 7's ending, that final shot, doesn't jump out to me as a Star Wars type image, but
Yeah.
you know, take with that as you will. I mean, that's just interesting to observe, I think.
Yeah.
What else technically?
Well, I almost wonder if we should jump over to the second half.
Before we can I comment on dialogue?
Yes,
'Cause
that's
I think-
a great thing to address.
'cause I think-
Actually, thank you for bringing that up.
Because, well, I think I'm trying to think of how to frame this without trying to overly defend the prequels too much, because we've talked about this before.
We're pretty open about our feelings on Star Wars, especially the prequels.
Yeah. So to me, I think, I mean, just to put the idea out there initially, I think to me, Star Wars' dialogue is George Lucas dialogue. And George Lucas dialogue is direct. It can be flowery, but it's not realistic, if that makes sense. It's kind of clunky. It's something that no one would ever really say, but that's kind of what makes it charming, and it gives it the Star Wars kind of feel, kind of harkening back to old like Flash Gordon episodes and kind of cheesy science fiction.
Well, he removed subtext.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no subtext whatsoever. It's very direct. It's on the surface. And I think that probably informs the acting, right? To a certain extent, because there's no way you can really say, like, some of these lines in the movies, in George's movies. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Have you seen the clip of Mark Hamill talking about the line he had to memorize for his audition?
I probably have, but it's not. I don't remember.
I can't remember.
Feel free to.
Well,
yeah.
I can't remember it exactly, but he says, like, when he read the sides for his audition for Star Wars, he was like, "Who talks like this? This sounds ridiculous." And I'll never forget it to this day. And he can recite his sides from his audition because it was so bizarre and so weird.
It sticks with you though.
And it sticks with you, yeah. And that to me makes Star Wars Star Wars. I mean, again, you do get some kind of awkward sounding stuff like "I hate sand," right? Which maybe it's not natural, it's not realistic necessarily. But when you think about the character of Darth Vader, like, of course he would hate sand. Like, he grew up on a planet with corrosive tiny grains, always chipping away at the architecture, getting into stuff. It's irritating, probably gives him rashes all over. I mean, of course, like, yes.
And he probably hates the background he came from to begin with as a slave boy. Like,
Yeah.
it's very upfront. It's served to you.
Yeah. And it's not communicated in a way where it's like, it's not like this beautifully poetic Aaron Sorkin kind of monologue about how grains of sand
Represent his soul.
Exactly. No,
and-
it's just
yeah.
like, I don't like sand.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, these movies are for children. I mean,
You cannot get past that point. Like, you can't not address that.
and we'll get into more of that later. But I think when it comes to the dialogue, this dialogue has to be understood by children because it's for children. And so I think when you try to hide it and make it a little bit too complex, it kind of loses its feeling. And I think, I mean, I'm not to say that acting should be broad and unrealistic, but I think you kind of have to go broad with these movies in terms of acting and the dialogue, because it has to be understood by children.
Yeah. Your themes can't be so buried below beautiful words that it becomes like you have to take a college course on it.
Yeah.
But there's so much available still.
The
can
subtext comes within the visuals,
Yes.
not the dialogue.
Yes.
And I think that, to me, is what technically defines Star Wars the most. Is you just can't. I mean, to me, I don't go into a Star Wars movie or show or whatever. I don't expect dialogue that sounds realistic. I expect dialogue that's direct, to the point, no subtext, but I'll get that subtext in the visuals.
Yeah.
Anything else we should say on the technical sides of Star Wars?
I'm ready to move on.
This let's see. So story-wise, or I guess theme, I mean, what makes Star Wars to you?
Again, this goes down to kind of where George's roots are coming from, which is when George was creating Star Wars, he wasn't pulling from he's pulling from all culture.
Yeah.
He's pulling from the human narrative,
Yeah.
and that's all around the world. Like, what if you distill the stories that humans tell each other? What
Yeah.
are you left with? And that's I don't know. I'm losing the term. What's it called?
So Joseph Campbell's monomyth.
Campbell's The Monomyth. That's
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that's where he's coming from. Is this story that? I mean, if you're wondering why Star Wars is so dang successful, it's because this is the soul of humanity is basically what George has discovered.
Yes.
And is poured into the scripts and the stories of this movie franchise.
Yeah.
Run with that.
I guess it's intentionally archetypal.
Yes.
And again, dealing with visual symbolism and motifs that tap into worldviews and mythologies and religions to try to find like a universal narrative in a sense. Joseph Campbell's thesis of all his work was essentially, if you look at all the worldviews and myths and religions, they're all the same story to an extent. He acknowledged, now he didn't go too in depth on the differences between these stories and myths and all that sort. He kind of didn't address that so much, but he does say like if we look past the differences, we see that there are more similarities than differences between them. Some people might disagree. Some people do disagree. But it's certainly, I think it's a comforting thing to think about, that we all come from the same place somewhere spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Like, because I think Campbell was a student of, I'm not sure if it was Jung or Freud. I think it was Jung who's the younger one. Gosh.
Yeah. No, because Jung studied under Freud.
Okay, so he was kind of like, he was subscribed to a lot of those kind of ideas of the subconscious and the universal subconscious.
Yeah.
So it's a comforting notion, and I think what's interesting and one of the best, I guess, arguments to George's success was when Star Wars came out originally, you know, Jewish folks and Christians and Buddhists and different people from all different types of cultures would point to Star Wars and say, see, that's what we believe, and kind of use Star Wars as a teaching tool for their worldview, which is kind of this beautiful kind of thing that he was able to give people and the team behind Star Wars, because, you know, is it literally about, you know, Christianity or Buddhism or any of these other kind of worldviews? No, but like they were all able to find connections to their own worldview in it, and so many different people from different worldviews found those connections. I mean, that's got to mean something.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, whether it's the power of that movie or to Campbell's thesis on mythology and the subconscious. But I think it's important that Star Wars taps into that to some extent in dealing with those archetypes and those themes that are universal and not so. I'm trying to think of an example. I can't really think of one. I guess like it would be weird to have a Star Wars movie. Well, but at the same time, Star Wars covers so many different themes. It's hard to say like it shouldn't cover this or shouldn't cover that.
Yeah. Well, I think the fact that Star Wars does always intentionally dive into a theme is inherently Star Wars at the same time.
Yeah.
Like it's very laser focused. I think what's cool is you can, even if a movie has a lot of themes it's going through, each character in and of themselves dives deeper into certain things. Like there's a great interview with one of the voice actors from Rebels. I believe it's one who plays Kanan.
Would it be Freddie Prinze Jr.?
I believe so. I believe that's the actor who they're interviewing.
Yeah.
But he talks a lot about how when George is like writing Darth Maul, how he's like, it's a really funny interview because he's so blunt.
Yeah, that is Freddie Prinze Jr. Yeah, I
he's
remember
so
that.
blunt about it, where he's like, Darth Maul is literally Sisyphus.
Yeah. Rolling his rock up the hill,
and he'll never do it. Like, and again, like that, and that applies to all characters in Star Wars, where every character has such a direct thing where you can dig into them and see their arc and their character, and what. If a movie has a big theme, each character is going through their own theme as well. And I think there's those layers that Star Wars has. Whether or not you read into them, I think they at a subconscious level, you can track with it and feel what each character is.
They affect us at a subconscious level, whether we realize it or not, because of the motifs, the visual motifs.
Yeah. And I think what's so cool, this was a thought I had earlier, and I lost it, but it ties in here. What I think is so great about Star Wars is Star Wars doesn't feel like it's manufacturing these feelings in me, even though it is. It doesn't feel like Star Wars is like a boardroom telling me how I should be feeling.
Yeah.
It's rather tapping in through a different way. And I think that's what makes Star Wars feel so special, is it's not, it's not men in suits wanting me to feel sad at minute 10 and happy at minute 20. It's, I get to interpret this how I want. I'm left with that. I'm given the respect as a viewer. But at the same time, like, there are these very deliberate decisions made by George or whoever else is directing that is meant to bring me somewhere emotionally.
I think that's certainly true for the original 6 Star Wars.
Exactly. And I mean that specifically towards the original 6. When we're talking about Star Wars here, I mean, it's hard to, it is just a different conversation with George than without George.
Yes.
So I mean this specifically towards when George was running the show.
And I think what we mean, when we refer to what makes Star Wars, we're always harkening back to George, but in the terms of the artistry and I guess it doesn't feel like a boardroom, because Star Wars is a boardroom now. Like, that's the reality. It's owned by Disney, it's run by a board, all that kind of thing. George is no longer in the picture. So we know now that it doesn't come from one artist. No. Whereas before at Lucasfilm, when he was running things, we knew that this was without a doubt, this was George making these decisions. I mean, he sunk a lot of money into the Clone Wars. He sunk a lot of money into his undeveloped TV show. A lot of money went into these projects that was losing the company money because that was his desire. Because he was running things how he wanted to do it and tell these stories the way he wanted to tell them. So, when George was running things, Star Wars was without a doubt run by an artist with a singular vision, not by a board. Now, successful Star Wars to me, since George's departure, is Star Wars that feels like it's not created by a boardroom. Yeah. The further away it can get a boardroom, the better. The more it can align with a singular person's vision, I think the more Star Wars it feels to me. Again, not calling out any particular films or shows since Star Wars, or since George left Star Wars, but I think just to clarify what do we mean by, like, it wasn't made in a boardroom, because it is funny, because it is made in a boardroom these days,
especially now. And then there is a lot of nuance to the Star Wars discussion now, especially with the departure of George. But I do think we've seen those moments even now since the acquisition of Star Wars by Disney. And there's arguments on when and where that is from different fans. We're not going to get into that here. The comment section, I'm sure, in this video is already going nuts. So we're not going to worry about it too much. We're aware that the Star Wars universe is complicated for fans. This is just our little pocket. Our calm little pocket where we're happy to enjoy Star Wars sometimes.
I guess the best advice I'd give to anyone is just Star Wars is like pizza. Any pizza's good pizza. Any Star Wars is good Star Wars, I think.
But if you like Hawaiian pizza...
I know. If you like Hawaiian Star Wars...
What would that even be?
I don't know.
You know what? Shoot, I'd watch it.
Yeah, exactly. I think in terms of themes, because we talked a little about themes, what are specific themes that you see kind of as running throughout, important to what makes Star Wars feel like Star Wars?
I mean, the theme... This is going to sound so broad and almost like I'm copping out a little bit, but the theme of family is huge.
I completely agree.
It's a cornerstone of Star Wars. The saga, literally the Star Wars saga is family. It's a family. I think it's an Icelandic term. Again, correct us if we're wrong. I think saga is an Icelandic term which was just a chronicling of family history. That's why it's called a saga. That's why it's the Skywalker saga, the Star Wars saga, because it's about the Skywalker family. It's so directly tied in. The whole first original trilogy is just about a family drama that happens to be destroying a galaxy.
It's and I don't know where this fits, but I'll forget if I don't say it here. Then we'll get back to family. But
no, you're good.
The movies aren't literal, I don't think. Like they're the original trilogy, right? It's about the family drama. And it's about, like, the redemption of the father through the son.
Yeah.
But if you look at the story literally, I think it can kind of fall apart because it's like you look at, oh my gosh, Space Hitler.
Yeah.
You're saying that we should forgive Hitler and
It's
all
a
yada
parable.
yada yada.
It's a parable, honestly.
But I think if you look at
Yeah.
it literally, obviously Vader, I think if we kind of did a real life counterpart with like a real life dictator, right?
Yeah.
It's atrocious. It's terrible. It's a lot more nuanced than Star Wars takes it. But I think like the redemption of Vader is something that's kind of to be understood more metaphorically and symbolically. How do we apply that in our lives?
Well, I think it's to hunt down the inherent good that someone has, that no matter how I think it's very a refreshing story, even though it is simplified in the ideas. It's not trying to like pull out every nuance of forgiveness, but to give a story that does show that like the people we see are so far gone, like to extend mercy and forgiveness. I think that's a cool, even though that might not perfectly fit as a puzzle piece into our daily lives, to have that ideal to look at. I think of Man of Steel, an ideal to strive towards. As I'm staring at a one Superman poster over here. That's how it feels, and I think that's where it, again, like it strikes a chord that all humans, I think, have in them somewhere.
And it's not meant, because I think like if you look at the real life nuances there would be, or like looking at it literally, like why should we just forgive Vader? He killed all those people. He committed genocide. I mean, yes, that's all true, but again, like you explained, it's supposed to represent metaphorically that no matter how much bad people have done, there's always some good in people, and that's
And
something
to recognize and call that out.
call that out, and help us not look at each other as enemies, but look at us as like fellow human beings and members of the same family.
Well, and you see the potential.
Yes.
Because I think what's so driving about Vader is the potential that Anakin had.
Yeah.
And to see his son bring that back,
Yeah.
that's so moving.
Yeah.
You can't, I think Vader's story only gets better once we get to know Anakin and to see the ideals that he had and what a great person he almost was.
Going to that, there was an awesome concept art, and I don't know which draft of the script it was, for Revenge of the Sith. There's concept art of Anakin on Mustafar with Padme. Padme's in this gorgeous red dress with this hood on, and she's got a knife in her hand because she was going to Mustafar to kill Anakin because she found out what she'd done.
Oh, man.
Isn't that awesome?
That's pretty cool.
That is such an awesome idea. I love that idea. But at the same time, that almost ruins the idea of the thematic idea of Star Wars, which is that Vader always had good in him. And it was important to have someone in the original, in the sequel, or the prequel trilogy, after Anakin turned, say there's still good in him. Because that good, I mean, that's what Luke says in episode 6. That through line carries through from episode 3 to 6. Padme's love and the love of the family. Someone still had to believe that there was still good in him. Is it realistic of Padme to believe that? I mean, maybe. I mean, I'm sure some women or people would still feel that about their spouses after their spouses did horrible things literally.
Yeah.
But we're supposed to look at it metaphorically, not literally. Metaphorically, what Padme represents, I mean, is democracy essentially. Because when she dies, the democracy ends.
Yeah.
So she's not really a strong, like realistic character necessarily in terms of being a realistic character. But her ideas like democracy and love for Anakin is what carries that through line through episode 6. And that's really important, I think.
Yeah. And then that line is picked back up by Luke.
Yes. Very.
And is fulfilled. Like he's able to salvage his father at a point where you'd think there's no going back.
Yeah.
And that tipping point is what actually ends up bringing Anakin back.
Yeah. Which
I'm trying to bring back.
Well, I'm sorry. Like I hijacked
your
because you said your idea of family.
Yeah.
And I just remembered that thought of like you. Oh, I think you mentioned like Luke saving his father. These movies. I mean, I guess these situations. It's everything. It should not be taken literally, or I guess try to be realistic necessarily. No. That's not to say that bringing a little bit of realism isn't interesting to Star Wars. I mean, I think, like you said, the handheld camera stuff in Rogue One makes the world feel a little more real.
You're in a war.
You're in a war. And
Yeah.
That's interesting. There's some realistic, nuanced themes that the Clone Wars deals with idea of like questioning authority, who's in power, why do people have who are in power, all that kind of stuff. There is some great nuanced conversations there, but I think overall, Star Wars should not be taken literally. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio necessarily for our
again.
world.
Like I think Star Wars hit. You kind of have to just go in with your soul open to be spoken to, less so with your like critical thinking.
Well, I mean critical thinking.
But in this way of not
cynical, not like this isn't realistic. Why would he think this?
You're not going
that?
with like a cinema mind in terms of like what's filming real life going to look like.
Yeah.
And capturing that, you're going for something deeper here.
Yeah.
And Star Wars still lends to that other realism in ways. Like it gives you both.
Yeah.
But it definitely is leaning more towards that soul, subconscious human side.
But I think back to what you said, family is very important. I mean, every single Star Wars thing should be about family to an extent. I mean, original trilogy, I mean, you have the literal
Blood
familial
family,
relations, but then you also have the found family in, well, I guess they are family because Han and Leia got married and everything. But I mean, there's groups of people coming together in all of it. I mean, in the prequels, it was Anakin, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Padme, like that group.
It's a family that,
And in the Clone Wars,
they don't even get along.
It was the clones themselves,
Yeah.
right, being brothers, and then Ahsoka coming into that fold. Rebels, it's the Ghost crew. Mando, it's Mando and the child, Grogu.
It's a father and son relationship.
It's a father and son relationship. I think what makes Star Wars feels like Star Wars is it deals with family.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
We all have families, so.
We all have it, yeah. And it defines us, whether it be found family or biological family.
Yeah.
That's important. I think along that line is working together is a really important theme in Star Wars. I think he kind of spells it out in Phantom Menace where it's the symbiotic relationship between the Gungans and the people of Naboo and how they aren't really getting along. But I think Qui-Gon says something like, if something happens to one of you, it happens to the other. Like it affects all of you, this system down here.
Yeah. Well, Anakin, when Qui-Gon and Padme are over at Shmi's house in Tatooine, he says something like, I wish people worked together.
The biggest problem in the galaxy is that people can't get along or don't get along.
And I love how that's a through line to episode 9,
Yeah.
where the whole galaxy comes to fight at Exegol. I think that's a cool through line that gets picked up at the bookends of the series.
Yeah. And that's really important. And I think that's an important theme for a lot of big franchises or series or stories. I mean, I think if you think of Lord of the Rings and Tolkien's Legendarium, a driving theme behind that is that people are stronger together. Whenever someone goes into solitude in the Legendarium, they're going to turn evil.
Yeah.
Melkor, Sauron, Fëanor, all characters who went into isolation, and that brought them to evil in one way or another. And some big moments in his books, I was going to say movies, is when the elves and men all band together, or the Last Alliance, or the War of Wrath, or any of those big moments where people band together to overcome great evil. And I think that same theme is in Star Wars.
Yes.
And you see that in each of the movies in one way or another.
Yeah.
What else? What other themes? Democracy to dictatorship.
Yeah, political themes.
Political themes. How do good people become bad people, like Anakin? I mean, Clone Wars and Rebels explored so much.
They go deep.
It's so hard to say that Star Wars is like this theme.
It's willing to tackle any theme, but again, it goes for the distilled version of the theme. It's not so broad that it's too nuanced. But it's not so broad that it's meaningless.
Yeah, but I think family is key. I think people working together is absolutely key.
It's like a pyramid where it goes out.
Yeah.
But there's these core things that kind of hold everything else together.
Yeah. But I think the most important thing, and I think this is more of an opinion for me personally, but Star Wars is about the Force, like as a theme, as a concept, as an idea, in some way or another, similar to family. I think for me, the Force has to be there in a Star Wars show or movie, which I think that's admittedly a little more opinionated. That's more of my personal opinion, because I mean, obviously they made Clone Wars, and there's several arcs in that have seemingly nothing to do about the Force. But I think what makes Star Wars unique to me is that idea of the Force. Now we won't get into what the Force represents, what it means.
Yeah.
But it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And that's what I think makes Star Wars unique. Aside from I think Dave Filoni had a quote somewhere where he said, what makes Star Wars is the Force. I mean, the spaceships and rockets and technology, that's a fun part about it. It's an important part about it. But at the end of the day, it is about the Force and what that means. And, I think one of the most good, outside of the literal, like, shows or movies about Jedi, like the original 6, I think if you look at Rogue One, right? Mm-hmm. Seemingly not about the Force at all.
Yeah.
But they are, Jyn and her father in the rebellion, they do pass that, may the Force be with you thing. That presence is still there. And especially with Chiru, the monk. Donnie Yen character. The blind monk who's like this fighter, and he's a believer, but his friend is not a believer.
Yeah.
And him taking that leap of faith at the very end and trusting in the Force, this blind dude in the middle of a war zone, like, it's so cheesy, but like it's so profound and beautiful as to what what that means to you. Yeah. You probably have the royal you. Yeah. You probably have a very different idea of what the Force is as to what I am, and everybody's like that. But that idea of like giving yourself to the Force and trusting and having that leap of faith and
a thing beyond yourself.
Beyond yourself. I think that's very important to Star Wars, and that's a good example where there are no Jedi in that movie, but the presence of the Force was there in a profound way, I think, that made for interesting storytelling, which could be, I think cynicism today it's very easy to just dismiss that as cheesy or like overly sentimental, but I think it's an important part of Star Wars.
And you can't say it's not impactful.
is the Force. I mean, that's what makes it unique, because I mean, a Star Wars thing without the Force to me is like Harry Potter without the wizards. Yeah. Like, hey guys, what if we made a Harry Potter movie, but it's not about the wizards, it's about the Muggles. That's not very interesting. Boo. But hear me out. What if it's about a guy who lives next to wizards, and he's a Muggle, and these weird things happen, and he can't explain it, and he thinks he's going crazy, right? That's interesting because you introduce the magic, even though that's a Muggle-oriented movie. Someone write that down. I want to see that.
That's like almost Fantastic Beasts, but a little further with that character. I can't remember his name, but
the Dan Fogel character.
Yeah. It's like the next Jacob. Yeah, it's the next step of one of those stories.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe it's his character like a week before he meets Scamander.
Yeah. That's, I think, to me, the Force is a very important part, very key. And it's a little more of my opinion, because there's lots of Star Wars without the Force. But I think, to me, what makes Star Wars feel like Star Wars is the Force. Because otherwise, it's just another sci-fi...
swashbuckling adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Which doesn't have so much meaning behind it.
Yeah.
As much meaning behind it. I have one more thing of what I think makes Star Wars Star Wars.
Let's do yours.
I think the last thing, which I don't know if George Lucas ever said publicly, but it's kind of something that was relayed to us through Dave Filoni, is when he was making Clone Wars, Dave Filoni he said that what George would tell them as he was teaching them how to make Star Wars is, at the end of the day, it has to be hopeful, because kids need that. Yeah. And again, these movies are for kids. Yeah. These shows are for children. And I think, we both work with kids, and he's right. Kids go through a lot of stuff. Yeah. We don't really think about that so much. And so having a media like a show or a movie or a book or whatever that is hopeful and gives kids a sense of like hope, I think that is very important, that it's it's for kids, and it's something to inspire them to do something with their lives. Yeah. Or give them hope that, tomorrow will be a better day. I think that's a very important, valuable thing.
Star Wars brings out the best in what we see the world as.
Yeah. So as interesting as it would be to, hey, a Star Wars movie set in Hoth, and it's a monster movie about, and it's R-rated about this the Wampa that's like ripping apart. So that's cool, but that's not for kids. That's not for children.
Yeah,
That's not necessarily hopeful premise-wise. I mean, it could be at the end, which, you know, for me, if you could check all those boxes of what makes Star Wars, go ahead. But
Yeah.
the premise inherently doesn't sound very.
That's just like a monster movie you want set in Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that because, I mean, Clone Wars found a way to do a Godzilla movie with the Zillo Beast.
Yes.
But they still made it hopeful at the very end. They still made it. It checked all those boxes for the most part of what made Star Wars. But I think hope is a very important thing because, again, when you're making media that is for kids, I think there is. I mean, Caleb said this when he was on our podcast a while ago. But when you're making stuff that is for children, I think you do have somewhat more of a moral obligation of what you're putting out there. I mean, it's different if it's for adults, but if it's for kids, it's like you got to be careful because kids are watching that and they're very influenced by things. And I'm not one of those people who's like TV and video games causes
My kids
shootings.
don't watch SpongeBob.
I'm not that person at all, but you know, it does influence their development and how they perceive the world to a certain extent. It's not going to make a kid go wild and suddenly go hurt a bunch of people.
No.
But you know, it can help or harm them. And if it's for kids, you should make it to help them and give them a reason to, you know, want to be alive and want to experience the world and find, you know, meaning in life and hope.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for Star Wars at the end of the day.
Kids should leave movies wanting to see the best in themselves, in others, and in the world.
Yeah.
That's what a movie should leave kids with, and I think Star Wars leaves that with you.
Yeah.
In one way or another.
I mean, even look at Revenge of the Sith. That is such a dark movie. Genocide.
Yeah.
Millions are dying in that movie. It still ends with that glimmer of hope of Luke, the baby delivered to Owen and Beru.
It's a new hope.
It's a new hope. And I think that's very important that it leaves you. Although we go through
Same with Rogue One.
Exactly. Everyone, spoilers, everyone dies at the end of it. But you're left with a sense of, you know,
it wasn't for nothing.
They didn't die for nothing. The fight will go on and continue.
And emotionally, their characters reach a point where they're content, where in the beginning, most of them are discontent.
Yes. So I think that's very important. And again, even episode 5, it's pretty dark, right? Like, finds out
The team is broken apart.
But it still ends with Luke and Leia on the bridge. They're hopeful for another day. Luke has a new hand. I mean, that's...
They're going to rescue their people who are lost.
Yeah, it's. I think hope is a very key part of Star Wars. Yeah, very, very good stuff.
That was good. Glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Anything else we should address Star Wars wise?
I just really want a lightsaber. I think this is the... I don't think we've said lightsaber like more than a handful of times in this whole thing.
Yeah. Lightsabers are cool.
Lightsabers are pretty cool.
Favorite lightsaber in the movies?
Ooh, that's a great question. You know,
Getting
when I was
to
a
more
kid,
of the less deep questions.
when I was a kid, I always wanted Obi-Wan's lightsaber from Episode 1.
Yeah, that's a
That
great
was a
one.
good lightsaber, and Qui-Gon's. I'm special. I lean towards those lights. Phantom Menace was probably one of my favorite movies growing up. Is it my favorite Star Wars movie now? I'm not sure, but I really love Phantom Menace growing up.
I'm partial to the green sabers
Blade,
I watched Return of the Jedi over and over as a kid.
Yeah.
Just because at the beginning Luke has that green lightsaber in that hilt, so his Episode 6 look for me, and the lightsaber included, that's like my favorite.
100%. I think green is my favorite traditional colored lightsaber, but when I was growing up, my brother played Knights of the Republic a lot, and you can customize your lightsaber. And when I saw an orange lightsaber for the first time, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's incredible!" So if I could choose any color, I would go for an orange lightsaber.
Yeah, I think I really like what's it called? The what's it called?
Who has it?
Darth Maul.
Oh, double-bladed?
Double-bladed, yeah. Why did that name escape me?
I was like, oh my gosh, what deep lore thing is he about to reference?
No, the double blade. I always love the staff lightsabers. I don't think that the staff sabers got enough love.
Oh no.
I mean, I'm so happy. Like Maul, Savage,
Savage Press, yeah.
The
Asajj Ventress, her lightsaber can be a double-bladed.
Yeah, and the Inquisitors, double-bladed.
We're about to see Inquisitors live action finally here in just a few weeks. We're close.
We're almost there. Favorite character? Oh, it's a little bit deeper, but it's
that's
kind
a
of
hard question. We can't just go from favorite lightsaber to favorite character.
Okay, favorite starship. How about that?
Ooh, favorite starship. That's a good question.
I know mine.
Oh man, so you're asking if I could pick one to own right now. That's how I'm going to interpret this.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm just thinking, what's your favorite? But sure, yeah.
You telling me you didn't get my favorite ship and it's not parked in the backyard? Oh man, shoot, you go first.
The yellow Naboo Star Cruiser.
I almost went with...
That's my absolute favorite.
Naboo starfighters as a whole. I was almost going to go with the Royal Starship that Princess Leia flies in Episode 1, but I think I have to go with the Slave One.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah. I think particularly Jango Fett's. I like the chrome look a little bit more.
Yeah.
Not that Boba's isn't bad. Jango Fett was Episode 2 was neat. It has some cool revamps of things. Cool designs
in all of them.
But if I had to choose another ship, I might also have to go with the Jedi Starfighters in Episode 3.
Oh yeah. I had the Lego set. I probably still have the
I
Legos
did too. I had the Anakin one. But I remember playing Star Wars Battlefront 2 and always loving flying those around.
Yeah, those are a good one. Okay, now favorite character.
I think it's got to be Luke.
Luke, yeah.
All flavors of Luke. I just like Luke. Can't get enough of him.
Yeah, he's a good one. I mean, I see. This is
okay. You go. No, you go. You're next. 'Cause I was about to give my second tier.
Well, I was gonna say it's so hard for me. I have like the starship problem because for me it's Anakin, Padme, Han, or not Han.
Yeah.
Because this is characters, not actors, movies, or anything. I don't care for Han Solo very much. I think I in terms of like characters I find interesting.
He's like the Bacon of Star Wars. Everyone likes him.
He's a great side character. He's a great side character, but in terms of like
main core characters,
yes.
Yeah.
Although I did enjoy Solo. I thought that was
Solo was a fun movie. I like Solo.
That was a fun movie. But as a character, I'm leaning towards the other. There's a lot more characters I think were a little more interesting. Yeah. But for me, Anakin, Padme, Luke, Leia,
the core Skywalker family.
The Skywalker family,
yeah.
And Ahsoka. I think those are my and Grogu. I love Grogu.
Do you want to add any more to that singular favorite character list?
How was that? That was 6. Those are my. I guess
I gave
it's from
one.
Different era. It's from different eras.
I will say I got to also throw in my boys Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon on that list.
Qui-Gon was great.
Qui-Gon. I read the Obi-Wan book series growing up when I was a kid. So you got to see Obi-Wan's
his training
as a Padawan, and I really enjoyed seeing him. But I mean, getting more Qui-Gon content, that was really great.
Yeah,
he's just a phenomenal character. I mean, he's what Anakin should have had.
Yeah,
and I think that's what makes him so interesting. He's the father figure that could have prevented so much of the bad stuff from happening.
Yeah, well, Dave Filoni's his whole his rant about the importance of Duel of Fate.
It's the doctrines of Star Wars right there, like summing up.
He put that duel into like a perspective that it was just like, wow, like I felt that, but it's like, oh my gosh, yes, like he put it into words.
Yeah. An apprentice of George Lucas.
Yes, very good. Favorite alien?
Oh, favorite alien.
Alien species?
Oh my goodness. I'm a Yoda fan myself.
The unknown.
The unknown Yoda species. I mean, who wouldn't want Grogu?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
So I think I got to pick that.
I love the Miriolans or Miriolans. They're what Barriss Offee are in Luminara and Dooley.
Yeah.
I always thought that was just kind of, it was a cool but like simple look. Just a simple headpiece and like some tattoos on the face and some different skin color. I love that look. Yeah. What else is there?
One last question.
Well, I'm
favorite planet?
That's a good one. I think Naboo.
Yeah.
Naboo's pretty gorgeous.
Naboo's pretty nice.
That's a simpler question I was going to ask.
I'm gonna give mine. Okay, Coruscant. I think I gotta do Coruscant.
Oh, Coruscant. Oh, that's such a great one. Yeah.
Between the two of us, we got planets covered pretty good, though.
Yeah.
Those are both great choices. You're a Naboo guy, though. I mean, you like the starfighters. You like the planet.
I guess so. Just that aesthetic.
I mean, it is beautiful.
It's like sci-fi Rome. That's what it looks like.
It's
Sci-fi
like,
Italy.
Yeah.
They're just missing Mario in space.
That's such a weird.
Well, they shot it in Rome, right?
I know,
Or
no,
in
they
Italy,
did.
right?
Yeah, you'll see people post like on Instagram, like, "Oh, I got to go to the place where Anakin and Padme walked or got married or whatever."
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your last question?
Well, I was gonna say favorite movie
Oh,
out of the
out of the 9.
or just all of them.
Oh, all of it.
All favorite
All of
movie
it.
or show or whatever. Favorite, like I guess,
Oh man,
thing.
wow.
I know it's a tough one.
Because each one, what's hard is each one for different reasons. So I got to figure out what's my like, what
The
reasons
ranking
win out.
almost. Yeah.
I'm not gonna even try doing a ranking here and now. It's fluid. It's all by mood. I mean, you go. You do yours first. Give me a minute.
Well, I think for me, Revenge of the Sith. I think I said that in my video
know.
this week, but like, that's my favorite movie. I look at all 6 as like one movie,
Yeah.
but I think for me, Episode 3 is like no other Star Wars movie got as big or dramatic or epic. No other Star Wars movie really kind of fulfilled the genre space opera.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear space opera, I think of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Because it's dramatic, it's big, it's huge. I mean, there's so much more choir in that movie alone, in the soundtrack for that movie alone.
Yeah.
It's like
It is
blows you back. So,
exactly what you. Yeah.
but all 6 I love.
I think I got. I mean, I don't want to overlap your answer, but I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is 3 for me as well.
Yeah.
But if I had to do a close second, it's 6. And then 1.
6 is good. Yeah, 6.
And then 1.
6 is such a great one. Yeah.
Because I love to see that. Again, it's the redemption of Vader.
Mm-hmm.
But it needs, and that's why it's 3, because that's why Revenge of the Sith edges it out. Because again, redemption of Vader is even more powerful because of Episode 3.
Yeah.
Seeing the fall of Anakin makes his redemption so much better.
Yeah. I agree.
Sorry, I'm getting a text from my fiance right now about
Where the hell are you?
no. She's like, "Hey, do you want anything from Taco Bell?" And I can't miss this text.
Okay.
That's a very important text. I'm thinking of Crunchwrap.
Crunchwrap is classic. That's good.
But there's some new stuff. I haven't looked at the new. I just want to say Crunchwrap today.
Crunchwrap's safe. Add potatoes to it. Crunchwrap, add potatoes. That's like a match made in heaven right there. This is now turned into the Taco Bell podcast. We need to get Caleb on here so he can be like, which
Mountain Dew pairs best?
with each Taco
Oh
Bell
my
item?
goodness. Okay. Caleb should make a YouTube channel where he just does an order with a Mountain Dew and he just reviews. It's like review of the week.
Every episode is a new Mountain Dew flavor.
Yeah, but he is like,
Reviews it,
okay, this is the things I suggest you get with this flavor.
Oh, that's good.
Caleb, if you're listening, and I know you are,
Yeah.
please make this channel.
Yeah, we love that.
If not for anyone else, do it for us. Anyways, bringing us back, the redemption of
Stoked.
Anakin
Yes.
is just so much more impactful because of Episode 3. But again,
I agree.
getting to see that, I'm a sucker for father-son stories, and Star Wars is just chock full of it. So it's all a good time. Just get the tears ripped right out of my face every time.
Favorite, I know I said last one. Favorite score, piece of music?
Oh,
Not soundtrack, but singular like track.
yeah. Oh shoot,
That's a tough one, isn't it?
that's a
Because
lot.
it's easy to say. It's easy for me to say like Revenge of the Sith soundtrack because the whole thing. But one piece.
Shoot, you got to send me these questions ahead.
I
of
know
time.
I should have. I didn't think of these until now.
Ooh. Yup Yup song from episode 6.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know. that was,
What's your opinion?
That was a meme answer.
Okay, this is a weird.
Ooh,
okay,
I know
what's
you're
your
about to ask.
opinion on the change of the Yup Yup to the new Celebration song from the special editions?
You know what's so funny? This is a tangent of your question that will wrap around, I promise.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I only owned one VHS set of Star Wars. And it was the set, particularly episode 6,
Yes.
where they hadn't yet done a lot of the digital effects. They hadn't
Yeah.
changed a lot of things. Like and the main thing is the
Yeah.
Sarlacc pit did not have the claw mouth.
Yeah.
It was just a pit.
Yeah.
And so that's all I knew for Star Wars for a very long time. I didn't see the new versions until I was in like my preteen years.
Yeah.
So I had no idea about a lot of this, but I'd get like the Star Wars visual guide and it showed the claw mouth. And I was like, what the heck is this? And I'd have arguments with people about how like in the Lego sets, it had the claw mouth too. I'd be like, this isn't part of Star Wars. Like, what is this? This wasn't, it was like a Mandela effect for me.
Oh,
of
yeah.
like, this wasn't there.
Or
What
you
are
were-
these people talking
I
about?
bet they were like millennial, like original trilogy fans who like
Yeah.
heard you talking as a kid and they were like, this kid gets it.
Probably.
You were like, you would fit right in with like an original
I
trilogy
didn't
crowd.
know. I just had no idea that these changes had been made for years. So I was always so confused. So the digital stuff I didn't know about till much later in life. And even
Yeah.
when I kind of knew about them, like I would run into it and be like, oh yeah, like it was almost like I had this blended memory.
Yeah.
Or if I saw one or the other, it didn't jar me.
Yeah.
Good example is my mom. She, her family's from Minnesota. She's not from Minnesota, but she'll say things like wash. When she's
Yeah.
talking about washing something, she'll say wash.
Wash.
And sometimes I'll say wash interchangeably. But I don't hear one or the other as wrong,
Yeah.
even though I'll make fun of her for it all the time. But like it's like that where like I can go either way. But that's
Sorry,
all
the
that
word
to say.
warshed, that just sounds
It's such a funny word. I love saying
Jabba
it.
the Hutt warshed himself.
Yeah. She'll ask me to wash the dishes. She'll say Washington instead of Washington.
Washington.
All that to say, I don't care too much, but if I have to choose one or the other, I'm going to go with the more nostalgic one I grew up with. So I'll go Yup Yup if I had to pick a pick.
Okay. First
So-
disagreement on the podcast.
But again, it's like I don't have like a thematic reason to
Yeah.
care. It's more of a just like, oh, I enjoyed that one. Like
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
But I do like seeing like the galaxy celebrating.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing. I think if I'm watching the OT trilogy on its own,
Yeah.
give me the Yup Yup. But if I'm watching 1 through 6, give me the other one.
You summed up my feelings on the special editions perfectly. If I'm just watching the original trilogy, I'll try to watch like I would prefer to watch the kind of more original versions. But if I'm watching 1 through 6, which is essentially the only way I watch Star Wars anyways,
Yeah.
I prefer the special editions because
It ties in everything.
ties in everything.
You get to see Coruscant.
You see Coruscant, they put in Emperor Palpatine
Mm-hmm.
in episode 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I and celebration song, I think, to me that's a little bit more big, grand. It sums up
yeah.
everything. It'd be kind of weird to cut to Coruscant and just having the Yup Yup song. I think
a little funny though.
feel a little bit not matching. So I love how big the ending feels.
Yes. Yes.
And especially like adding Hayden in as a ghost. Like if you're
100%.
watching it 1 through 6, that is so meaningful and impactful. And I think that probably meant a lot to Hayden playing that character, getting to play the rise, the fall, and then the redemption
Yeah.
on all that. Gosh, the special editions, that's a whole conversation in
That's a
itself.
whole second podcast. I never got back to your other question.
Oh, the sound,
about
the score. We didn't. Neither of us answered that one.
So you go first. I'm gonna be over here on Spotify real quick. You can't ask a question and not
I
have
know.
your own answer.
Oh, gosh,
It's a great question, honestly. Everyone in the comments should. We haven't called for this yet.
I
And
know.
we're very late in, but leave your answers.
Leave
for
your-
these, 'cause
yes.
we want to know.
Yeah.
Don't argue about Star Wars. Just tell us what you like. Or if you want to argue, that's fine too, because we get good engagement on that just by comments. So, but we're a positive place here.
Gosh, this is such a difficult question. Okay.
You asked this without even having an answer.
No,
It's
I did.
incredible.
I think Duel of Fates.
Yeah.
I'd have to give it to Duel of Fates. But every bit of music from those movies is so iconic. I guess if I had to pick one from each era, each trilogy, no, Battle of Heroes. Battle of Heroes.
I was going to say Battle of Heroes. That was up there.
Did I tell you my 4th grade music story?
No.
I think I've said this before.
Maybe.
This is a little... when I was a kid, I didn't listen to pop music or like radio music. I didn't really care for it at all.
Yeah.
The only CD I had was the Revenge of the Sith CD. It's still right there on my desk. That was the only... I just listened to the Revenge of the Sith soundtrack on repeat when I was a kid. And I didn't know it was on the radio. Mm-hmm. And one day in 4th grade, we're in like a circle. We're passing around a ball, morning question or whatever.
Yeah.
And the question is, what's your favorite song? And it's going from kid to kid going like, Britney Spears, Avril Lavigne, Black Eyed Peas, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it comes to me. And all I know is, and I say this verbatim, I go... Battle of Heroes by John Williams on the Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith soundtrack.
That's an amazing
And the room
answer.
got so quiet. They were just like, what? And then I passed it, and then the next kid was just like, Britney Spears or whatever was popular.
And Jordan never shared what he liked ever again.
I know, I didn't listen to like, I used to like only listen to like music scores or whatever, like Harry Potter soundtracks or whatever.
And y'all wonder why Jordan's soundtracks are so good in all of our movies. There's the answer. You got to start young.
I'm a failed John Williams. Battle of the Heroes from prequels. I think from the originals. Yeah, Binary Sunset, because that's classic. And then the sequels, Rey's theme from episode 7.
I love Rey's
Such
theme.
a good piece.
Rey's theme is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I got to agree with that in the sequels for sure. It's Rey's theme. I like Snoke's theme a lot too. I think it's a really good theme. It's hard. I want to be listening to these,
I know.
but I'm like, oh shoot,
You can just say when they play in the movies too.
I want to listen to them. I'll be honest. I might pin a comment down below my answers or something. I don't think I can do this here. There's too many. There's too many good ones.
Oh, we didn't even talk about soundtrack when it came to what makes Star Wars Star Wars.
Oh man, there's too much. See, Star Wars is such a complex topic.
Maybe we'll do a follow-up at some point.
We might have to.
Yeah, with
this podcast does real well. We'll do it for sure. But
yeah,
you know what? We'll do it anyways, and then we'll do a Zack Snyder one.
I know. Okay, what are other? So we talk about movies.
I mean, Vader's theme, or
the
March,
Imperial
March.
Yeah,
I think that's got to be up there.
I'm in the morning stations at our school. We have morning stations, so kids go eat breakfast, then they go up to a different room.
Yeah,
I'm in Jodie DeHaven's room.
Oh, that's wild.
So I'm in there with her, and we've been playing.
Has she recognized you yet?
Yeah.
Okay, finally.
we had a conversation about it. We've been playing orchestra music for the kids, like on the projector. So a lot of John Williams. And a couple of the mornings, we'll blast the Imperial March. And we're right by the hallway where kids are walking in. And that's such a song that's just like, welcome to school, kids. As the Imperial March is like blasting. It's loud speakers. It plays really big.
I got to tell you my school story now, actually. I'm just remembering. When I was in elementary school, probably 3rd grade, we had to do a music class assignment, give a presentation on a composer, and I did John Williams.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And so I had to play a bunch of his songs. And again, it was the same thing where kids were like, here's the Gorillas, here's this. Yeah. And it's like, here's John Williams.
Yes, that's great. Yeah,
He's the best.
Same exact thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But really, man never made a bad score.
No.
For really any movie.
He don't miss.
Or just Star Wars in general. Like every single movie had some new theme that was like, yes.
He just kept on giving us more of what we wanted without us knowing we wanted it.
I'm excited because have you read the Kenobi news?
Mm-mm.
Is
he doing more?
So when it came time to doing the score, Natalie whatever, I can't remember the name of the composer for Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
She said that when John Williams heard about the Kenobi show, he wrote to Kathleen Kennedy and was like, so I never actually got a chance to give Obi-Wan a theme. Can I do that now? And so he wrote the main theme.
Oh my goodness.
For Kenobi.
I didn't know that. That's incredible.
So Obi-Wan's theme is going to be
debuted in
the Kenobi show. Because if you think he never really
have one.
He doesn't really have one.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
We listen to that on repeat.
I know, it's exciting.
That needs to just become part of my DNA now.
It's kind of like how it's not the exact same thing, but how Ludwig Göransson, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah.
He did the Boba Fett theme, but he didn't score the show.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be cool to see how it kind of weaves in and out the Kenobi show, the theme and all that.
That's cool.
The music.
Wow. So many cool things.
Favorite lightsaber fight?
Ooh.
There's one. There's a good superficial question.
Ooh. I mean, it's got to be Anakin versus Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
I have to agree.
I revisit that one on YouTube. I'll just look that up on YouTube and just watch that fight.
I love watching choreographers perform that fight.
It's so cool. Yeah, that's the one you see like
It's
all
most
the different
emotional,
people.
most.
It's again, it's like cliche answers we know, but like at the same time, it's like that's the peak. Like that's what all of Star Wars is building to, is that moment.
Yeah.
And you can feel it. So it's like maybe it's cliche, but I mean, the only other one I could think of that's pretty cool, it's not even really that much of a lightsaber fight, but it's Sidious and Yoda. That's not even much of a...
That's the same one almost, because it's in the same sequence. It's cross-carrying between the two.
I mean, Duel of Fates obviously is super dope. Honestly, a cool little underrated one that's pretty short is Qui-Gon versus Maul in the desert.
Yeah. One that I always remember, this was one of my earliest memories of like hearing people react to movies, was in episode 2. Like,
oh, and Yoda
because
and
remember,
Dooku fight.
up until that point, we had never seen Yoda carry a lightsaber or reference carrying a lightsaber. When he hobbled out of nowhere and was like talking smack to Dooku, and then he pulls out his lightsaber, I remember the crowd screaming like well, not Endgame levels, but it was like, oh, like no one knew. I don't know if it was in the trailers or not.
No.
But from my memory, no one in the crowd expected or knew that Yoda was going to fight with the lightsaber in this one.
And it's awesome.
And that was awesome because he was a puppet up until then, so he couldn't.
Yeah.
So that one always sticks out to me. It's just like seeing Yoda with the saber for the first time is pretty wild.
Also, Revenge of the Sith. Or not Revenge, Return of the Jedi, Luke versus Vader.
That's a great one.
Again, another pinnacle moment. And episode 5 when Luke fights Vader. That's a really iconic scene. I mean, there's so many shots in that I think that are so like, when I think of Star Wars, like when they're in the carbonite freezing room, and it's that silhouetted shot with the blue and the orange of the floor, and they have their lightsabers out, but they're just silhouetted. That's like a top 10 shot frame of Star Wars.
That's really where the lightsaber fights became about the environment and kind of really using mise-en-scène to enhance the story of what's going on. Because in episode 4, it is like a cool samurai battle. Yeah. But it's on the Death Star. There's not a lot of texture. There's not a lot of interaction with the environment going on. It's a little
sterile, comparatively.
Which is, I mean, that's the purpose of the scene. But in episode 5, it's dirty, smoke, dirty. They're running all over the place. Once he gets his hand cut off and he's standing over that big chasm, and it's just overlooking
he jumps into the void.
Such a big moment. Also, well, you haven't seen the finale of Clone Wars.
I haven't yet.
There is an amazing lightsaber fight within the last. I think it's episode.
It's Ahsoka versus Maul, isn't it?
Okay, yeah,
I'm very aware that it happens. Yeah,
that's got to be one of my favorites.
Also, Kylo and Rey teaming up in episode 8. That's a really good lightsaber fight. Or the throne room battle after Snoke is killed. Yeah, that's a cool battle.
I'm trying to think what other lightsaber fights there are. I mean.
Also, a great emotional one, honestly, probably one of my favorite parts of episode 7 is Kylo versus Rey in the snow.
Oh, yeah.
That's a cool one.
When she grabs a saber, that was a great moment.
That emotional beat of him trying to take the lightsaber and her getting it, that beat just lands so well for me.
I think it's not a lightsaber fight necessarily, but Luke popping up in Mando.
Yeah, we were freaking out.
Because we watched it too. You and I were here.
We were here, right?
My whole family was here.
Yeah, we were telling people to shut up because we were talking.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible. That was
next level.
Yeah, I think in terms of, I think there's a lot of movies these days that kind of, they use the term I don't know where it came from, but like weaponized nostalgia, right? Where it's like using old things,
Member berries, yeah.
member berries kind of thing. Whether that's true or not for that, I think Luke is probably the best in Mando season 2. That's probably the best example I can think of like it working. I think because a lot of times it doesn't work so well, but I think it really
or it works one time, but on every viewing after it kind of tarnishes a little bit.
I think it still works in Mando season 2 because it's a natural place. I think that him showing up just made sense.
It was the only person.
It was the only person who could show up. If you look at where the universe was in that moment of time, I think it's also the only person you really trust to take away Grogu from Mando.
Yeah.
Like, if it had been some random Jedi
Plo Koon,
or Cal
like,
Kestis,
yeah.
like most of the people don't know who that is. They're like, oh, should we really trust? Don't. If it's Luke Skywalker and R2, it's like he's in good hands.
Yeah.
So it just made sense for that, and that was such a another example of them innovating technology. Now, they've made much more improvements on deepfake in the de-aging.
One instance from Luke in season 2 Mando to Book of Boba Fett, like
he is
leaps and bounds.
They're like we learned lots of things the first time around of de-aging Mark
and they made
Hamill.
It easier for themselves.
And then they knocked it out of the park. They made the best deepfake technology.
It's incredible.
So good, so beautiful.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna keep going forever if we don't cut it off.
We really could. How? Gosh,
it's probably like an hour 20 or more.
Hour and 30.
Yeah, there we go. Well, we're at the longest
30.
episode. We did it.
Well, I guess should we wrap with our normal 2 segments?
Sure.
Yeah.
We can do abbreviated.
So if you're a first-time listener to this show, we like to wrap up the episodes with what are you watching and what are you working on? This is just kind of more of a checking in with where we are at Doom Productions, what we've been watching, what we've been working on. In case you're wondering for any updates on our feature films or short films or anything like that. So Ethan, what have you been watching?
The main thing I've been watching is Stranger Things season 1 with my fiance. She hasn't seen it before, so we're wrapping up. We have 2 episodes left to go.
Nice.
It's been really great to revisit. I like all the different seasons for different reasons. I really love season 1 because it's spooky.
Yeah.
And then I've also started watching the Genius Kanye documentary. I've watched part 1.
What is that about?
So it's literally like if someone was following Kanye with the camera, like from like when he was just starting out in like 96, 97 as a producer, like a music producer. It's just a guy following him around and just going to meetings with him, and with narration and stuff. But it's just literally you're tracking from the 90s to today.
Oh wow.
Kanye legacy.
That's pretty cool. Actually, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, it's actually really neat. And it's like shot on mini DV. Like,
I love those little fly on the wall documentaries.
Yeah, and that's all it is. So it's really cool. You get to watch this man become who he is.
Yeah.
So I've only watched part 1. I'm gonna probably just like do 1 part a week because it's like a 3-part full length thing. So it's pretty long, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting. Kanye is someone I'm just fascinated by.
Yeah.
I don't even know that much about him. But he's just someone who's a part of the pop culture.
He's a character
zeitgeist.
for sure. Yeah.
So I'm just fascinated by him as a person, and I've started to listen to his music. I only started listening once like Jesus is King came out, and now I've been jumping back more and forwards with keeping up with what he's releasing. I'm becoming a fan. So
see, I have the opposite. I listen to his music. Well, I guess it's kind of similar. I listen to a lot of his early stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about him really, other than like the TMZ kind of like tabloid drama that's played out in recent years.
Yeah.
But I don't know how he really became.
It's super interesting to watch, to see. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend it.
Nice.
So far, I mean, again, I've only watched part 1 of the 3 parts. So, so that's the main thing I've watched. Other than that, I mean, I watched this new little folk film called Hotel. I got to watch it as a live at the first premiere that was done at a theater up in Yakima, Washington.
Nice.
And you can all watch it for free on the RC Films YouTube channel.
It's out right now.
It's out right now. Very, very cool movie.
I'll second the Hotel thing. Was that everything you'd watched?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've watched a lot recently.
I watched Hotel.
Yeah.
I was a producer on it. Good job, boys.
Good job, Caleb and Nathan.
We haven't talked to them since it's been released as of now, so we need to have a Zoom call at some point and just congratulate them and just rave about it more. But
Yeah.
Watch Hotel. Watched Hell's a Timeshare in Florida. Joel
I haven't
Dick's
watched
movie.
it yet.
Super fun. Liked it a lot. Gorgeous cinematography. It's I don't want to spoil it. I was really happy with how the story played out. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
I liked all the things, how it happened. Aside from those two, I've been rewatching The Proud Family, old show.
Cool. Yeah. They have the new one out now.
Yeah, so I rewatched the old series and then I watched the movie that they made in like 2005, and I've just started watching the new stuff, which has been fun. I love that show.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies this weekend.
All 5?
All 5, yeah.
I haven't seen the 5th one.
You should check it out.
I want to. I did a rewatch. I was gonna watch all 5, but I only made it through the first 3, and then I got sidetracked. I never made it through the last 2.
I have a lot of thoughts on those movies, but overall, I had a fun time watching all of them this weekend. I really enjoyed them all.
Oh man, they're so cool. They're some of my favorite movies.
Really fun stuff. I'm bummed there probably isn't going to be another one.
No.
But that's another
That's a whole other topic.
But yeah, I really enjoyed those movies. And I remembered watching the 5th one and the 4th one being a little bit like not connecting with it so much. But when I rewatched it again this new time, I was like, that was really fun. I like that a lot actually. So
it looks cool. I only know. I know nothing about the 5th one.
Yeah.
Other than I've seen the character, the bad guy of it.
Yeah, Salazar.
And he just looks cool to me.
Yeah.
And that's all. I'm like, that guy looks neat. I want to see him in a movie.
My one thought I will share about the movies is the 4th one loses some of the cinematography and the visual look is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I think that's because there's a different director and a different not cinematography. Well, there might be different cinematography, but it was shot on digital.
Yeah.
And that was the first one that was shot digitally. And so visually, it's not, in a weird way, it feels more similar to the first Pirates of the Caribbean than the second or the third.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the first one has very minimal CGI. The second and the third, total CGI, all about. So in a weird way, the 4th one kind of felt more like visually like the first one. Yeah. But then the 5th one visually looked a lot more similar to the second and the third.
Interesting.
I know it's kind of vague, but
yeah, no, I can track.
I enjoyed them quite a bit.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's what we've been watching. Now, what have we been working on? You have had a very busy week. We had a big talk about this earlier.
Yeah, life's been busy, and it makes it really hard to work on feature films.
Yeah.
But I had a weekend that was very open. It was one of those few rare weekends I have where I have nothing to do.
Yes.
Nothing pressing to do. Which really just means I only have one thing to do, which is edit The Bell Rings.
Oh, yeah.
And I took advantage of my time, and I am so close to being done with the rough cut, which I know sounds
which you've been
dumb.
saying for a while, but like,
yeah,
I want to say for a while it's been, I'm trying to speak in this vague terms.
That's fine. I mean, honestly, you can, whatever comes out, comes out.
You're like, it's one more step, and then it's like the finish line, crossing the finish line. In terms
no, because
of the
honestly,
cut.
with the bell rings, the rough cut is the hardest thing to assemble.
Yeah.
From here, it's honestly like it's like you have the ball almost at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
And then you want to roll it to the other side.
Yeah.
You just got to push it over the top,
yes.
and it takes care of itself almost.
By this time that you all are listening to this, the cut's done.
Yeah. My goal is to have it done by Friday, and you're going to watch it next Monday.
Yeah. So by this time that you're all listening to this, the movie will have been edited. The rough cut, anyways.
The rough cut will be edited, and then because again, the way we edit our movies is like, it's not like just placing clips. Mm-hmm. I mean, rough cut involves getting VFX done, getting color grading and audio and all these other things, so that rough cut is more like 75% of the movie is done.
Yeah.
And then it's just rearranging and polish from there.
Yeah.
So, and people in Yakima know the trailer played.
Oh, yeah.
At the live screening of Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
So some people have seen the trailer for The Bell Rings already.
I hope it doesn't get like. Wait, did you take their cell phones away?
I didn't. I just trusted that people wouldn't record it.
Wait, who was at the screening?
Well,
you
luckily,
should have watermarked it with all their names.
No, I'm
in
gonna have
case
like a
they
freaking.
leak it.
I'm gonna have a freaking No Way Home style. I mean, do you think people will find out that Andrew Garfield was in this movie? Yeah, but yeah. So, hey, we're almost there.
Almost there.
Almost there.
Yeah. Me, same thing. Working on Ladanza. Gonna do some shooting. If on May 4th, actually. I wish I could spend the day watching Star Wars, but in fact, I'm gonna go to work and then do a little filming for Ladanza, and then we're gonna do some VFX tests later. Later on. But yeah, that's just about Again, don't hold your breath for Ladanza to come out. It's going to take a while. But
It's more of a Bell Rings journey than a Video Carnage.
yes, it's going to be a while. But it'll be worth it in the end.
Yeah.
That's what we've been working on.
Well, this is a nice long episode.
Yeah, that's what happens when we get to talk about Star Wars and stuff we really enjoy, which we don't get to do often on the show. But we do it when we want to procrastinate on our work.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment down below with your thoughts on Star Wars and all of that. We appreciate your viewership as always. And if you liked hearing us talk and you haven't seen any of our feature films, go check out our feature films. We got, how many is it? 5?
More than that.
6?
6, 7?
I lost
7?
track.
We got Crescendo on the RC Films channel too.
Oh yeah, that's
so we've
right.
got even more. So there's a whole bunch of stuff you can watch.
Yeah, a lot of stuff you can check out on our channel. But yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for checking out our work. And until the next episode, have a good week.